Hey, Nimble Superman back again. I just finished doing my DC Rebirth video, and I'm waiting for that to upload. Um, and if you haven't checked that out yet, please, I highly recommend you do. It's just my general thoughts, predictions, basically what I would do with Rebirth. Obviously, the event that they're doing this year. So, um, one thing I didn't get into much was what I would do with the characters. Um, I basically just kind of just figure out just the general characters, basically the top 10, top 15 characters, I guess popularity wise, that, DC's got right now. And I didn't really go into it too much. I really just talked about Superman, just to, I guess, recap what I would do if you don't want to watch that video. Just basically, the events of Darkseid War take place in the past. So what I would do is basically wipe out all that DCU stuff and start around that time of Darkseid War. Obviously, people will be pissed, but what would you rather? Do you want to go down this route of like the status quos of all these characters and go down the route of like fixing them? Like, Superman's got to find a way to get his identity back to being secret and, because he's going to have his powers back. But that plot line is still kind of tied up there. That's what I think. Just get rid of all the DCU stuff. Nothing really good came out of it. Maybe Martian Manhunter. But that's about it. So yeah, with Superman, what I would do, and then of course, you wipe out that whole future, and since you're fucking with time anyways, you basically just kind of get rid of, or not get rid of, but you would basically do little changes to the past here and there. Obviously, with Superman, I'd bring back the Kents. I think that would be a really opportune time to do it, and very cleanly. Just bring them back. Like, if you're messing with time anyways, it's to me it's pretty simple. Yeah, and then Superman's world stops being so dreary and dark, and he has people to talk to. I think the stories would be a lot better. Like, it's just you just get more options, honestly. As a Superman fan, and I beg you, please bring the Kents back. Bring back the Kents. And I also toyed with the idea of maybe the memories thing, because, Titans Hunt, they're doing something there where characters are remembering things from pre-Flashpoint. So, you could have Superman maybe, and obviously keep his memories limited, but maybe he remembers things about Lois, and maybe that's what starts this whole chain of maybe he starts developing feelings for Lois, and you basically make a plan for that. And then, you can mess with the costume if you want. I would say bring back the classic Superman symbol, bring the yellow back on the cape. You gotta kind of change the armor. It shouldn't be armor. I don't mind it. I like the new 52 suit, but obviously people don't respond to it. To me, that just, and then, and I guess this portion of the video I'm talking about what you would do with the characters in their status quos, because ultimately that's what reading comics to me is about. If you're going to get into a character, like when Spider-Man, his body was taken over by Doc Ock. It might have been a really interesting story, but for me, sitting from an outside point of view, I wouldn't really want to read that. Like, if I want to read Spider-Man, I want to read Peter Parker, like, as Spider-Man doing his thing. That might seem kind of dumb to some people, but, as a new reader, that's probably your first thought, and especially like with Batman, it's like, I don't want to get into Batman during a time that Bruce Wayne's not Batman, and Jim Gordon is, like, and he's in the bat suit, that's not, or a robo bat suit, that's not Batman. Same kind of deal. So, at this point, yeah, because I'm just making notes so I can tell people skipping the description up to this point. But yeah, basically, that's what I do with Superman. That hits the main points. And then I guess with Superman's status quo, to start fixing stories, I would start focusing on his rogues gallery, man. Like, honestly, I think that's the biggest downside with Superman right now. Because you look at maybe the best stories with Superman, or the stories that they've done with Superman, probably the best one was Doomed, and that one was with, basically a classic Superman enemy. And Brainiac, classic Superman enemy, and Lex Luthor, classic Superman enemy. And all the times that they go out and do different things is when they're creating villains that don't really respond well with Superman, or at least make it interesting to read. You know, like a lot of the Greg Pak stuff, in my opinion, was like that. With the Batman Superman book, some of it with Action Comics, with the Ghost Soldier and that kind of stuff. I didn't really enjoy like anything of that. I think the only time I enjoyed Batman Superman with Greg Pak was when he was doing that Zadu arc uh, with I guess Kandor. They eventually find out what the whole situation is with that story, and it turns out to be Zadu. I thought that was actually pretty cool because that enemy kind of resonates well with Superman. So obviously, I would work on Superman Rogues Gallery. He needs a solid 5 to 10 villains that can like show up at any time. We need to reestablish, where Zod is, what's Parasite up to, and that kind of thing. And when we do bring him back, I think we got to come up with different versions of those characters. Because you look at a lot of like the best incarnations of like the heroes and things like that, of like like Superman the animated series. Like they didn't really do much with Superman to switch things up, but they switched up his villains a lot. And to me, those are the things you can touch. You can switch up the villains, but it's harder to switch up the heroes. You know what I mean? So yeah, the Rogues Gallery, we got to work on that, and we got to make the villains much more of interesting parallels with Superman. So yeah, and obviously it hits my other point that we got to make a plan for Lois and Clark to get together. I'm looking over here because I made a bunch of notes. Sue me. Yeah, because I usually am off the cuff, and I still kind of am. I just have some notes on the side. So yeah, Superman. That's what you do with him. And then I guess going down to the league, through the league, Batman. Obviously, Batman doesn't need much. People like where he's at. He's obviously the only character that's really selling at DC. So really, we don't want to mess with him too much with continuity. Again, with the whole DCU scenario, though, to me, it's still like, worth getting rid of. Because like Batman and Robin Eternal, I've literally picked up every issue of that series, and I would not mind seeing it go. You can still have Cassandra Cain and things like that, because she only really pops up in this series. But you wouldn't. I wouldn't mind getting rid of all that. I literally would not mind it at all. Obviously, some people would be pissed, but I'm telling you, I've been somebody who's picked up like pretty much all the books, and I would not miss it. Yeah, it's not like when they did Future's End, and then they retconned basically all that. Well, did they retcon it? Like, I guess at the end of it, Terry thinks he fixes things, and yeah, I don't know, something like that. There's definitely something with Future's End. I guess they retconned it. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read it, but yeah. With Batman, obviously we don't want to mess with him too much. I think, but you just can't have him show up looking the exact same. Because that's kind of like, I think the biggest problem with New 52 in terms of being a reboot is, Hal and the Green Lantern Corps were fine and Batman was fine, so like we didn't do anything with them, and that really messed up the continuity, right? Like they really just can't, like the last issue before New 52 was like basically an extension of the story that they were doing in New 52, right? So we had to fix that. So Batman has to change. I would say visually, and I might get some flack for this, but I wouldn't mind them switching it up to the Frank Miller symbol. People love the Frank Miller symbol. They love Frank Miller Batman. I think it'd be cool. I mean, it's in the movie now. People would recognize the bat symbol from the movie, and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's pretty recognizable, the bat symbol, whatever incarnation you do. But basically, you got to do something to switch him up just a little bit. Maybe we can make him bulkier, like, Ben Affleck kind of Frank Miller Batman. Maybe we can make him big, and maybe give him the Frank Miller bat symbol. And again, we don't need to do that, but that's just kind of what I would like to see. I wouldn't mind it at all. I think it'd be really cool. And obviously, we got to do something about the multiple titles. I'm not saying we got to stop them, Because Batman sells good. I like Batman. I'd pick up more Batman titles. The only thing about it, though, if you're going to do multiple titles, they gotta be, they gotta feel different. Like, I don't want to pick up, like, because I think that was a problem in the beginning of New 52. Why I kind of just got burned or just kind of exhausted on Batman titles is because they just felt kind of similar. They were all kind of like doing the same thing, you know? So I guess this time around, I don't know how many Bat titles it's going to happen. I assume obviously Detective, and then there's going to be the monthly, and then I assume we're going to do Eternal again because Eternal I think is actually a good idea of a weekly Bat title. So yeah, obviously with Detective, to me it's got to be dark, gritty. It's got to be detective stories. It's got to be mysteries. Not just because of the name. But like to me, Detective Comics is classic Batman stories. So let's give people that. Let's give classic Batman stories. Let's not involve Robin and the Bat family every 5 seconds. Like let's keep a Bat title where it's you can pick up Bat stories, Batman stories, and we don't have to worry about maybe Nightwing or someone else really popping into the story. Let's keep it classic, because that's another thing I think there's a problem, especially with the Superman books, is like there's not really a book you can pick up to get classic style Superman stories in a modern era. It's just nothing like that. So let's keep that what that is. The Batman regular monthly, it's obviously going. It might be going bi-weekly. I would not be shocked at all because I think it's a good idea. Um, but to me, that's the one you can play with more if you're going to cross over with the, if Superman's going to show up or something like that. It should be in that book. It shouldn't be in Detective. Keep Detective classic Batman stories. And it should always be a fun read. To me, that book should be the Batman superhero book. He should be. That's where all the big stuff should happen. And if you're going to cross over with events or anything like that, or if another book or something like that with Nightwing, that's the book to do it. Because when you cross over all the books, you piss people off, man. You ultimately do. Because you get parts to a story that aren't as needed or as good as other parts, and it just feels forced, and you just piss people off. So and that's I think the goal number one with the whole DC Rebirth is we gotta stop pissing people off. you know. So yeah, that's just my opinion. And then the Batman Eternal book. I think the biggest thing with this is we still got to keep it within 20 to 25 issues. We can't go 50 issues again with the Batman Eternal title. That first Eternal book, oh god, it was just exhausting because like you tell 50. I can't even remember how many chapters it was, but I'm assuming it was like 52, 55, somewhere like there. But 50 chapters of a weekly book, trying to keep that interesting week to week, man, I just got sick of it like 20 issues in because like the story just got so convoluted and like it just got like to this point where it's just like, oh, come on, like, the way characters were acting and things like that. I just got exhausted with it. Like, but Batman and Robin Eternal, it's got good pacing. Like anything from 20 to 25 issues, I think is a good for a weekly book. You can tell a good, interesting story, and then boom, and